faces from the news sometimes gathered in the headquarters meeting room. SK Group Chairman Chai Won-tae and CL Group Chairman Yang Junima. In addition to the two, Park Dong-wook, President of SSK Nix, Chai Won-ho, President of SSK Innovation Yang Yang-young, President of CL Chemical and Yang Kyung-yong, President of CL Electronics also attended. We've met at the Blue House or a hotel before. Nice to meet you. Taekyu smiled slyly and said to the president of CL Chem. Is your daughter doing well? At that Seo Ho-young smiled awkwardly. Then I apologize once again. Yang Hana is the daughter of CEO Yang Yang. In the past there was an argument with Taekyu at a party. I poked Taekyu on the side to tell him to stop and then said with a smile. This guy was joking. Don't worry about the past. We said goodbye and sat down. I looked at President Yang Young-ho and President Won-ho Chai and said, these days the stock prices of CL Chemical and SSK Innovation have fallen a lot. Their faces hardened slightly at my words. There are three major battery manufacturers in Korea. Seosang SB, CL Chemical, SSK Innovation. However, while Seosang SB soared, other secondary battery stocks continued to plummet. The most expensive component in an internal combustion engine vehicle is the engine, while the most expensive component in an electric vehicle is the battery. Since batteries are the core of electric vehicles, each company has been competing fiercely. Both CL Chemical and SSK Innovation were evaluated as possessing outstanding technological prowess and won supply contracts from automakers one after another. In preparation for the future market growth, R&D investment was also not neglected. Thanks to this, the performance of the NCM battery has improved beyond comparison with the past. By the way, with the OTK battery things have completely changed. Even when it was first announced, mass production was expected to be difficult, but it has succeeded in commercialization. The research and development of the two companies, which had been pouring out enormous amounts of money, was temporarily suspended. The only thing that can only be made by improving the NCM battery is a better NCM battery. Although next-generation batteries such as all-solid-state batteries and new materials are being developed, there is no guarantee that they will succeed, and even if successful, it is difficult to surpass the performance of OTK batteries. Perhaps they have obtained and analyzed OTK batteries, but they may not have been able to find out about the core technology, and even if they did, production would be impossible until the patent right was released. Once the direction is confirmed, we will try to find a way to circumvent the patent, but it will not be easy. Fortunately, the production of OTK batteries is limited, and TS Company does not supply large-sized batteries for automobiles to other companies. Therefore, other automakers have no choice but to continue to use the existing NCM batteries. However, the price of NCM batteries was gradually declining, and so was the sales volume. According to Chairman Im Jin-yong, the Volkswagen Group and Fiat Group have requested to revise the quantity and price of the existing contract. Unsung Motor, which was cooperating with CL Group in the electric vehicle field, has turned to us, and cooperation with GM will also be cut off completely after the end of the existing contract. As you know, unmanned electric vehicles are connected to all fields: battery, telecommunications, electronics, and so on. Among group affiliates, SSK Innovation, CL Chemical, SSK Telecom, CL Telecom, SSK Nix, and CL Electronics are directly related. So, first of all, I would like to propose the consignment production of OTK batteries to CL Chemical and SSK Innovation. As the stock price plummeted, the plantation of the two seemed to be bad. It would hurt your pride to do consignment production instead of batteries that were produced with your own technology. However, the state-of-the-art NCM battery technology became obsolete in an instant due to the advent of OTK batteries. There will not be a lack of demand for a while, but a carriage is a carriage no matter how well it is made. We need more batteries, and both groups are stuck at 60% plant capacity. As you may have already heard, Seosung Electronics also lacks its own production volume, so we plan to request a foundry from Taiwan's TSMC or SK Nix. I think there will be a lot of work to be done in the future. What do you think? Chairman Chai Won-tae and Chairman Yang Junmo both look immersed in thought. A few years ago, I would have never imagined that I would hear such a story from a young blue-eyed young man. The answer seemed to have been decided. Businesses prioritize profits. Self-esteem is not something to feed. I received a call from Professor Myung-Joon Kim after a long time. Congratulations on the successful pre-order for Karis. Thank you. Not only our department but also the chemistry department and the automobile department have very high expectations. Thanks to them, everyone is liking me so I don't have to worry about getting a job. Okay. You said you are also cooperating with the SSK group and the CL group? What is this? The Korean economy is now being fed by OTK company. Seeing you constantly complimenting me, I feel like I have something to say. If you have something to say, you can do it directly. Hey? Then please. No, let's make one request. Isn't this too direct? What kind of request is it? You know the Korean Symphony Orchestra. I know. They come to Korea University once or twice a year to perform. I'm not the type to listen to classical music, so I didn't listen to performances. Right. It was created in 1955 with the students of the Hankook University of Music as the main axis. And it is an orchestra with a long history that has been passed down to this day. Even in Korea, it is recognized around the world by holding it in the top 3 fingers. So, as the history is deep, the Korea Music Center, which is used as a practice room and performance hall, is also old. I received a safety check this time and repairs are urgently needed. The facilities need some improvement. So now we are looking for corporate sponsorship. Are you asking for support from OTK company? I am a person who neither receives nor does this kind of request, but the head of the instrumental music department at Hankook University asked me to do it. Are you the head of the instrumental music department? The College of Music building is far away from the College of Business Administration, so it is rare to encounter them. Even so, among the students of business administration, there is no one who does not know who the head of the instrumental department is. Because it's your mother. So, Professor Myung-Joon Kim took a deep breath and said, if another professor told me I'd cut it with a knife, but what about my wife? They peck every day, but you have to be able to stand it. There are a lot of disciples in the members right now, so I'm worried. You don't have to pay a lot, just pretend to donate even a small amount. If OTK company makes a donation, won't other companies also support it? It is not a very difficult request. It is also the role of capitalists to actively support art once they have made money. In the case of the Medici, they sponsored Botticelli and Michelangelo and left many works of art. Andrew Carnegie built Carnegie Hall and the Rockefellers built Lincoln Center. Seosong Group and CL Group are also operating art halls. Even if you can't do that, you'll be able to pay enough support. Bear. Professor Myung-Joon Kim was taken aback by my words. What do you want from a poor professor? I said with a smile. There is no free lunch in the world. Shish, did I teach you too well? Can I tell you to contact them first? Okay. And one more thing. Never get married. This is the greatest lesson a teacher can give to a disciple. To say it was a joke, it felt intensely sincere. A middle-aged woman wearing glasses came to the office. Good morning. Park Hae-jin, president of the Korean Symphony Orchestra. Welcome. Nice to meet you. It is the conductor who leads the orchestra, but the task of the representative is not easy. She has to manage the members of the band, and is also responsible for the performance schedule and rental. But the most important thing is to secure a budget. Revenue comes in every time we perform, but it is difficult to maintain by that alone. Unless it is a large and successful orchestra, support from local governments and corporate sponsorship is essential. In particular, in the case of facility renovations that require a huge budget like this one, the Seoul Metropolitan Government also expressed displeasure. And in the end, the CEO is walking around to raise money himself. However, since the circumstances of large corporations are not good these days, it seems that it is not easy to get support. There are various reasons why companies support culture and arts. First of all, tax cuts are given, although we are not eligible as corporations are tax havens anyway, and businesses can be promoted. It is a bonus that various benefits are given when attending concerts. Invitation to special performances, exclusive seats, VIP treatment, etc. Take you asked. How much do you need? Then CEO Park Hae-jin said cautiously. It's 27 billion won. Hearing the amount, we looked at each other face to face. She quickly added her words. Not all of this money is being sponsored. Just a little bit of support is enough. Taeyong said in a low voice. I thought tens of billions of dollars, but I think it will be cheaper than I thought. Yeah. I also thought about 100 million. How much would you like to pay for this? Before I could finish thinking, Taekyu said. We will support all of them without having to visit many places. At that, Seo Park Hyejin jumped up from her seat and bowed her head. I really? Thank you. There is only one condition. Conditions? Well, it's not that difficult, don't worry. Nothing else. When she heard Taekyu's condition, she was surprised. I was surprised too. What nonsense is this? After a while, Park Hyejin, who regained her consciousness, stuttered and said, So, you're saying you want us to perform Lost Fantasy music with an orchestra? There is a lot of good music in that game. In particular, the ending song of 7 and the opening song of 12 were really touching. Have you ever heard of it? No. You haven't heard that famous song? That's sad. It's on YouTube, so give it a listen. The admiration will come naturally. Read more at wuxiax.com. I said, confused. What kind of Lost Fantasy orchestra is all of a sudden? I've been thinking about it ever since. As everyone knows, next year is the 30th anniversary of the release of Lost Fantasy. Everyone knows, why didn't I just know? If we hold a concert to commemorate the 30th anniversary, wouldn't it be a good memory for Lost Fantasy fans? If you perform it with an orchestra, who will listen? The fans listen. The music concert demand group and the game demand group are completely different. Why do you think it's different? How much do gamers invest in sound? We even have our own gaming headset. We play games and listen to music. What? It's pretty logical, so it's hard to argue with. Taekyu clenched his fists in excitement and shouted. How long are you going to play only Mozart and Beethoven? The time has come for the orchestra to play new music. That's because the only musicians you know are Mozart and Beethoven. Johann Strauss too, or Johannes Brahms. And there's also Kondo Hayashi. Who is that? As everyone knows, Lost Fantasy music director. Did you not know? Why the hell am I still not included in all of them? Taekyu looked at Seo Park Hyejin and asked. Is it difficult? Oh no. It's not difficult. Think. This is an opportunity to introduce the name of the Korean Symphony Orchestra to the world. If I support publicity a lot and make bread. No, if you lose, we will cover the entire cost. At least it's going to be a box office hit and make money. Seo Park Hyejin had an expression that was not at all reluctant. However, a donation of 2.7 billion won is at stake. That would be too large an amount to refuse. Art is a very noble thing, but wouldn't it be worth the money? She nodded as if she had made a firm decision. I'll do it. Lost Fantasy has been a series for 30 years. There is an OST for each game, and about 100 albums have been released so far. It was also a task to pick out songs to play during the 2-hour performance. The song selection was decided by Taekyu himself in consultation with the music director Hayashi Kondo. When the song was decided, it was arranged for the orchestra, and Seo Park Hyejin started recruiting a choir and pianist. Surprisingly, he succeeded in casting world-famous pianist Eiji Takahashi. She didn't even ask to be cast, but it is said that she was contacted first. The reason is that he is also an otaku? No, because I am a Lost Fantasy fan. OTK Company provides full support for the renovation and repair costs of the Korea Music Center. Korea Symphony Orchestra Lost Fantasy Orchestra Performance. Collaboration of OTK Games and Korean Symphony Orchestra. Lost Fantasy 30th Anniversary Concert. Game music to a magnificent orchestra. How do gamers react? Meeting classic in game. After the article was published, the internet went wild. I guess someone is not an otaku company. That's awesome. It's a 2.7 billion concert. By the way, is this money? It's just for publicity. It's about to be released online on the 30th anniversary of Lost Fantasy. By the way, who selected that song? All the famous songs are included. I've never been to a concert since I was born, but I do. Must go unconditionally. Let's go see it. Oh, I don't have money. Shall I ask my mom for pocket money to go see a classic? Do I have to sell the Dragon Killer sword? Which server are you on? I will buy it. I'll give it a try when spring. The concert was scheduled 3 months later and ticket sales began. Surprisingly, tickets were sold out in less than 3 minutes after the sale started, and tickets were sold for more than 3 times the price. The concert website was flooded with protests. Why are you doing this good show only once? Increase the number of performances. Let's do some cultural life too. You say you want to build a culture, but why can't you? Transfer tickets. Please contact. Why did a guy who doesn't want to go buy it? Resalem guys are very disgusting TT. Please put the scoundrels to death. The Korean Symphony Orchestra hastily organized 2 more performances in Seoul, and decided to perform once in Daejeon, Gwangju, and Busan. Again, all sold out. It is rare for a concert to close so quickly. This was a reaction no one expected. Well, this is what really happened. Isn't this enough to increase it a few more times? At my words, Taekyu wiggled his fingers. That's not right. Although we have strong concentration firepower, the absolute number is not that large. If we increase it further, there will be leftover tickets at that time. Enthusiastic but not popular? Look at the sharpness of demand forecasting. Obviously, this feeling is not normal. Interest was also poured out from abroad. Why are you only performing in Korea? Lost Fantasy is a Japanese game. Perform in Japan. How much sales did you get in the US and what were your performances in the US? Everyone. Let's show the power of Western otaku. Requests from performance agencies in Japan, the United States, and Europe were lined up, and the Korean Symphony Orchestra set the stage for an overseas tour. As the issue continued for a while, Lost Fantasy M soared to the top again in the smartphone game store rankings, and expectations for Lost Fantasy Online to be released later grew. AD3 and AD4 are scheduled to begin delivery at the end of the day. Factories in Rust Belt took turns assembling cars. Chairman Im Jin-young personally inspected factories and production facilities in Korea and Vietnam and encouraged his employees. Chairman Chon Young-han placed an order for electric vehicle parts from suppliers of Unsung Motors. Experts predicted that after the US, Korea would be the biggest beneficiary of future cars. Semiconductors, no matter how successful their exports, have little impact on the domestic market. This is because the number of employees is small and all production facilities are purchased from the United States and Japan. On the other hand, the behind-the-scenes effect is very large for the electronics business and automobile business. Large corporations announced that they would increase hiring in the first half of next year, and small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, also recovered little by little. Hiring, who had been walking downhill all the time, took my breath away. There are no big changes right away, but for now, economic sentiment was improving, and the government started to revive the economy by injecting finances. Christmas was just around the corner while I was working. It's quiet for the Christmas season. It seemed to indicate a slowdown in the domestic economy. Still, there was a huge tree in the center, and fundraising for the Salvation Army for the underprivileged was in full swing. We also set up a large tree in front of the building and prepared gifts for the staff. The gift is a year-end bonus. There is no better gift in the world than money. For Christmas, we will be having a party as usual. This time, we decided to meet at Hyunju's sister's house. A few days before Christmas, I had a welcome guest at the company. It's been a while, old man. It's been a really long time. A girl was sitting across from him. No, now that she's graduated, isn't she a student? In the meantime, she seems to have gotten more beautiful. His trademark bright blonde hair was still there. You have become more beautiful. Yuri smiled at my words. Really? Thank you. Now, rather than looking young, she gave off an atmosphere like a mature woman. Are you doing well, Ellie? Then, please say hi. I said while drinking coffee. What did you do after graduation? I studied and prepared for a job. I also did an internship for about 3 months. From RCK Brothers? No. At Won Securities. As the name suggests, Won Securities is a securities company operated by the Won Group and is small in size. Well, even if it is a large securities company, there is no one bigger than RCK Brothers among domestic financial companies. You didn't know there? Of course. RCK Brothers' vice president's daughter is an intern. This isn't some kind of my company intern found out, the only daughter of a chaebol family. Tina-senpai sometimes asks how you are. Has she not contacted you? You probably don't even know my contact information. Come to think of it, she had completely forgotten about Sienna. We don't even have to talk to each other. All she needed to do was get married and live happily ever after. We drank coffee and chatted. I even got a Nobel Prize and now I am a superstar. What is a superstar? Yuri smiled and said, it's really strange even thinking about it now. When we first met, weren't we just normal returning students? That's it. Come to think of it, quite a bit of time has passed since then. Companies that were like a hole in the wall have grown into megacorporations, and their assets have grown endlessly. All of my classmates graduated and each got a job in the financial sector or a large corporation. According to Yuri, Hayami Lee also successfully passed the RIT group. Seeing that he also got a job, it seems to be true that these days, large corporations are hiring graduates of Hankook University's Business Administration Department. What are you going to do next? What are you doing? I need to get a job. Anyway, I brought my sleep paper. Would you like to see it? I laughed out loud. Are you really coming in here? RCK brothers. Yuri shook her head. I'm not going to receive any successor education, so what am I going to do with my father's company? And my dad says, the senior will move the global financial market in the future. If you want to work, shouldn't you be working at a place like that? I laughed bitterly. You're already doing that. Sovereign wealth funds and investment companies, everyone is paying attention to the OTK company's cash flow. In terms of cash mobilization alone, RCK brothers would be better than us. Is it comparable? Hundreds of billions of dollars would be ridiculous if you took out equity, collateralized loans or issued corporate bonds. There are a lot of places that want to pay us. Yuri looked into my eyes and said, aren't you going to not hire new employees next year? Actually, we need more people. The number of assets under management has increased, and the vacancy created by Henry's departure is also large. If it's glass, it seems like it'll do a good job, but is it possible to hire someone like this? What do we do? Should I decline? After thinking for a while, something popped into my mind. Is he going to be promoted to team leader later? After a while, she came to her senses and saw Yuri staring at me. The senior is still there. What? It's a habit of being numb sometimes. I have something to think about. Yeji really reminds me of every attempt. Anyway, does this mean that Yuri is needed by the OTK company? I nodded my head as if nothing happened. I will hire you. Go to work tomorrow and learn. Yuri was startled by my words. What? Can I get hired this easily? I smiled and nodded. That's okay. If you look at it, all the employees of the company now have gathered through networking. There may be talk among the staff about preferential treatment or parachuting, but if you have the skills, those words will soon subside. If you don't have the ability, you'll be the first to go out. The financial sector isn't that good. Yuri said happily. I should be proud of my dad. I wish you all the best in the future, President. I wish you well too. After working out at the gym in her house, Ellie returned to her room and was drenched as if she had been hit by rain. Her outfit was a tank top and black leggings that exposed her shoulders and belly. Her hair was tied in a ponytail out of the way. Ellie removed her earphones from her ears and she drank water. Yuri came to visit us today. Really? What has she been doing all this time? She studied and did internships, she said. She wants to join the OTK company, so she told me to come out tomorrow. I added something as an excuse. Sometimes we need more staff. Ellie smiled. I know. In the future when I go to work I can see glass. Fortunately, she didn't seem to care at all. She wants to say hi. Really? I think Yuri is really pretty and cute. She is also young. I laughed out loud at that. Ellie is too young. Ellie poked her lips out a bit as if in anguish. It's young. She is 3 years older than Jinho. Seeing her expression made me smile. Did you care about that? Even though she looks Western, she grew up in Hong Kong when she was young, right? Well, I don't really care. Don't worry, other people will think I'm your brother when they see you. This is never because I am thin but because Eli looks young. No matter how busy I am, I don't skip exercise like I do now. Actually, I have one thing to discuss with Jinho. What? Ellie went into her bathroom, she said. I'll tell you tomorrow. Read more at wuxiax.com. I took the sushi lunchbox I ordered with Take-You and crossed over to the Golden Gate building. We ate together in the manager's office. Hyunju Nuna said while eating sushi. Do you know what Bester is? I've heard of it. Isn't it a sports apparel company? Right. The company is now preparing to go public. The higher the national income, the greater the demand for leisure and sports. Mountain climbing is the epitome of leisure and sports in Korea. This is because the mountains are close to the city center, and people of all ages can enjoy it comfortably. Padding for mountaineering is in vogue and even students wore it like a school uniform and it sold like crazy. After the fashion passed, indoor exercises such as yoga and Pilates and water sports such as surfing and wakeboarding became popular. And in that market, a Korean company called Bester stood out. As strong players were already holding out in the outdoor market, Bester focused on targeting the non-mainstream market. But suddenly, the craze for leisure and a healthy body was blowing and the market grew rapidly. Luck followed. Famous foreign actors wore vests on vacation, and consumers misunderstood it as a European brand. Thanks to this, we got a premium image and orders flooded with the holiday season. In Korea, it achieved a market share of up to 70%, and following the momentum, it hit a jackpot in the Chinese and Japanese markets. And now it is about to go public. The expected market cap after listing is about KRW 1 trillion. The amount of shares to be offered is 40%, and the money raised through the public offering will be used to develop the ASEAN market. Take you asked surprised. What kind of clothing company does 1 trillion each? Hyunju's sister asked. No wonder. How big do you think the global textile and fashion market will be? Surprisingly, it is about $2 trillion, which is equivalent to the IT market. You might wonder how much money you will have left by selling a few tens of dollars a piece of clothing, but in the case of Kara, the world's #1 fashion company, annual sales of $30 billion and net profit alone exceed $3 trillion. It is not for nothing that the founders of Kara, Spain, M&H, Sweden, and Uniqlo, Japan, are listed among the world's 10 richest people. Anyway, this is enough for the Korean IPO market. We are in the process of selecting a listing manager, but it has been tentatively narrowed down to KYB Securities and Golden Gate. The problem is that they put one condition on us. What? They want to use Ellie as their advertising model. We were surprised by that. Ellie. Hyunju Nuna said as if she had a headache. We met a few times over the issue of IPO management, and during the meeting the president of the company seems to be obsessed with Ellie. Ellie shook her head and said, "You keep calling me to meet and talk to me." I put down my chopsticks and muttered, "Your boss will contact you separately? What the hell is this? Maybe there's no other intention?" Hyunju Nuna saw my expression and added a word. "It's the boss's woman." "Oh, I see." I naturally picked up the chopsticks again and Hyunju Nuna and Ellie grinned. Take you asked. What are the conditions? It's outrageous. It's not comparable to a top star, but it's a ridiculously good condition for a new model. In fact, the conditions don't really matter. It's not that Ellie can't make money. The important thing is. What do you think of Ellie? Ellie tilted her head at my question. I do not know. It's a very absurd suggestion. After finishing the meal, Hyunju's older sister explained by chewing non-smoking gum instead of smoking. She originally tried to cast Hollywood actress Catherine Thaler as a model, and she was almost on the verge of her contract. But when the boss saw Ellie, he was completely hooked and changed his mind. From what I've heard, in the case of CF, top Korean actors and Hollywood actors are said to have similar prices. I looked at Taejayu and asked, "What do you think?" Then Taekyu blinked and looked at me. "Why are you asking me that?" "No, what? Seems to fit strangely well these days." I asked Hyunju Nuna. If Ellie approves, will Golden Gate be selected as the listing manager? Perhaps. That is the condition for us or that side. If the size of the public offering is 300 billion won, it would be quite reasonable to receive a commission alone. Instead of commission, I decided to receive it as a preemptive right. Okay. What is the acquisition price? It's the same as the public offering price. From the perspective of the company, it is like giving stocks instead of commissions, so you can save that much money. From an IB point of view, if the stock price rises after listing, more profits can be obtained. Hyunju's older sister smiled. If the public offering price falls below, it should be counted as free service. Even if you say this, you will not really want to volunteer for free, so it can be said that the possibility of the stock price going up after listing is quite high. It's okay if you do it and it's okay if you don't. We are not in a difficult situation. Then Eli said. Still, it's nice to do it. In the IPO market, it is also a big fish that came out after a while. I thought carefully. If she didn't want Ellie to do it, she would have just turned it down, not the top. You're talking to me like this, right? Ellie likes to exercise. She also does scuba diving. I think it fits well with the company image. Wouldn't it be okay if it wasn't something too revealing like a bikini? Hyunju Nuna said while chewing gum. You don't have to worry about that. In the first place, bikinis aren't even the main product. Ellie hesitated. I told Ellie. How about giving it a try? Well, I don't know if I can do it well. Even if she is a year old, she wants to leave a picture of her when she was young. Seeing her say this, it seems like she wants to be secretive. Did she say that when she was young she dreamed of becoming a ballerina? As such, there is nothing strange about her desire to appear in front of the public. With this beauty, she only works in finance, and in a way she's wasting her talents. Wouldn't it be a good experience or a memory? If it was Ellie, I'm sure she could do well. At my words, Hyunju Nuna said in a passing tone. Right. She used to have a part-time job as an advertising model when she was in college in England. Really? This is another fact I didn't know. Ellie was startled and waved her hand. Hey, she just did her tuition and her living expenses and she was on vacation for a while. What kind of advertisement was it? Do you have any pictures? At my question, Ellie smirked and resolutely shook her head. No, do not have. What the hell were you filming? Is she even Black History? In the end, Ellie accepted her model request, and she defeated her KYB Securities and selected Golden Gate Korea as the organizer of Bester's listing. After Christmas, companies have entered the full-fledged year-end season. There was no end-of-the-year vibe. The domestic economy is still poor with only depressing news. The biggest issue in recent years is Korea-Japan relations. It is difficult to say that the relationship between the two countries is good even with empty words. The Korean government abolished the Comfort Women Agreement with Japan during the Park Si-hyung administration, and the Korean Supreme Court recently issued a ruling acknowledging the liability of Japanese companies for compensation to workers forced into labor during the Japanese colonial period. The Japanese government strongly opposed this. Foreign Minister Takeo Okamoto strongly criticized South Korea in public. The Comfort Women Agreement is a final and irreversible agreement, and the Japanese government cannot accept South Korea's unilateral abandonment. In addition, all compensation has ended with the Korea-Japan Claims Agreement, and making such a judgment now is an act of overturning the treaty signed by the government. Japan has sufficiently compensated South Korea so far, and according to the existing agreement, it does not need to pay a single yen more. Promises are meant to be kept. If unfair sanctions are imposed on Japanese companies based on the judgment of the Korean court, we will take strong action at the government level. These political conflicts also affected economic cooperation. In the discussion of resuming the currency swap between Korea and Japan, remarks poured in. Finance Minister Ryutaro Matsukata said, Korea treats breaking treaties between countries as if it were a meal. There is a good chance that you can borrow money when you are in a hurry and eat it later. What do you believe in lending money to Korea? There are many countries that need Japan's help, so there is no need to give preferential treatment to Korea alone. As a result, discussions on the resumption of currency swaps were suspended. Take you asked. Then what will happen? How is it? No problem. Currency swap refers to exchanging currencies according to the exchange rate agreed upon in the past. The reason for signing this agreement in the first place was not because Japan did any favors to Korea, but because the interests of both sides met. The yen is a quasi-key currency that is considered a safe asset. As Korea can borrow yen at a fixed amount when circumstances are difficult, it can have a similar effect to an increase in foreign exchange reserves. Although there is no need for the won in Japan, it is positive in that it can induce the exchange rate stability of the won. When the won depreciates, Korea's export competitiveness increases. As Korea and Japan have a significant amount of overlapping export items, Korea's exchange rate stability is also beneficial to Japan. If Korea is in a disappointing situation, I would have to ask him to resume the currency swap, but there is no need to do so. While the domestic economy is not good, the current account is at an all-time high every quarter, and foreign exchange reserves are sufficient. Rather, it is enough to worry about the exchange rate being too low. Japanese politicians criticized Korea every day, and if you forget about it, they continued to claim sovereignty over Dokdo. The main reason for doing this is to help increase the approval rating of the ruling cabinet. Until just before, Prime Minister Yusuke Okazaki's approval ratings were declining due to various scandals and remarks and sexual harassment from close associates. but his approval ratings rebounded significantly after he started beating Korea. One incident occurred while Korea-Japan relations were on the deteriorating path. The time of the accident was 2:30 in the morning. The place was a street in Chicago. A man in black suddenly jumped out in front of a moving car, and the car quickly turned and slowed down, but an accident occurred. 911 was dispatched to local residents, but the man died during transport. The deceased was Masao Yoshizawa. It turned out that he was a Japanese student and at the time in a state of intoxication, jumped into the road without his coworkers stopping him. This has been one of the most common car accidents ever. However, the news received a lot of attention because the vehicle that caused the accident was the AD1, and it was in autonomous driving mode at the time. At the time of the accident, the vehicle was cruising at the correct signal. As it was an unavoidable accident, the insurance company also acknowledged 100% pedestrian responsibility. The accident seemed to end like this. However, the reaction in Japan was different. 2 days after the accident, Prime Minister Okazaki suddenly suspended all schedules and held an emergency ministerial meeting. And as soon as the meeting was over, he went out on his own and announced the results. First of all, as Prime Minister, I am very sorry for the deceased who died in a foreign country. The Japanese government will organize a dedicated plane and dispatch a forensic unit belonging to the Foreign Ministry and the National Police Agency to the United States. We will also thoroughly investigate the accident and reveal the truth. The Sankei Shimbun even published a special article on the death of a Japanese student, and NHK also covered it as major news. Karos autonomous driving technology, is it okay? I've bought it several times before. Are there any measures to prevent recurrence? There is a high public opinion that driverless cars should be completely banned. CO Kong Jin, who you need to clarify your position. The actual rate of accidents caused by autonomous driving is less than 1/20th that of accidents caused by drivers. And this is an accident caused by the responsibility of the pedestrian. But that was not addressed at all. Toyota chairman Toshiyuki Toyota said in a press interview, "An imperfect technology is nothing more than a murder weapon. Machines should not kill or injure people. It is time for a full review of autonomous driving technology." Japanese politicians and media have pushed this into a problem with autonomous driving technology. In the United States, the reaction was generally absurd. As MC Gerard Clark of the famous automobile program Top Motor conducted a simulation himself, there was no way to avoid it. Even when he was aware that a person was jumping out. Those who saw the released black box video also agreed to this. Is that a human, an elk? No, how do you avoid that? Even Michael Schumacher can't avoid that. It's sad that he died, but isn't that an accident caused by a self-driving error? But why is Prime Minister Okazaki so upset? Isn't it wrong to drink and jump into the road? What are you going to investigate? You asked. Why is Japan doing this? Because the automobile industry plays a large role in the economy. If you look at the market cap of the exchange right now, Korea is Samsung Electronics while Japan is Toyota. These include Toyota, Honda, Nissan, Mitsubishi, part of the Renault Alliance, and Suzuki among the world's top 10 automakers. In the meantime, it has made huge investments in autonomous driving, electric vehicles and hydrogen cars, and it has been producing sufficient results. Even Toyota was already operating driverless cars, and it was evaluated as having advanced technology. However, due to Karos, the technology of the Japanese automobile industry is now outdated. Although Karos has not entered Japan, sales have already declined in North America and Europe, which has had a negative impact on Japan's current account. In this situation, when a foreign student collided with a Karos car and died, he was excited in doing that. I was expecting you to bump into us sometime, but it's going to be like this. Even anti-Korean sentiments from recent events were mixed in here. From Okinawa to Hokkaido, memorial centers were set up all over Japan, and the whole of Japan was enveloped in an atmosphere of remembrance. As if waiting, the anti-Korean group Re-Special Association, a group of citizens who do not allow special privileges in Japan, held a demonstration in Shinokubo. They carried the portrait of Masao Yoshizawa and walked around the Korean shopping streets, swearing at Koreans as murderers. The meeting's chairman Makoto Nishimura spoke to NHK News. Yoshizawa Masao is as good as Jinfu Kong killed. Kong Jin, who must come and kneel in front of his spirit and his family and apologize. Koreans, get out of the archipelago. Take-Yu, who was watching the news, said absurdly. Read more at wuxiax.com. Why is that bastard like that? It is not a day or two for far-right groups or right-wing groups to talk nonsense. However, it is another matter to broadcast it without filtering like that on public broadcasters. The cabinet ministers took turns talking about the errors and problems of the Keras technology, and the level of criticism against me was even higher. Japan's influence on the international community is not formidable. As Japan began to make a fuss, Germany, France, China, Mexico, India, and other countries with their own automobile industries secretly sympathized with them. There is no latecomer who doesn't like to beat a leading company. The Japanese government made a statement to Keras and shouted loudly to disclose all data such as driving data and algorithms. It's hard to stay still when things get like this. In the already busy situation, Daryl struggled with a countermeasure. What should I do? At that moment something flashed in front of my eyes. When he came to his senses he saw Take-Yu staring intently at him. What is Yaeji? I told you exactly what I just saw. It is said that 14.97 million Toyota shares will be acquired for 14.97 million yen. How much is that? Wait a minute. I searched Toyota with my smartphone. Currently, the number of Toyota listed shares is 149,582,550. If OTK Company acquires 14.97 million shares, it will hold more than 10% of the shares. This meant that it could quickly become the largest shareholder of Toyota. But something is a bit strange. Take-Yu blinked his eyes as if he felt strange too. How much did you just say? 14.97 million yen. If you round it up, it is 15 million yen. That's roughly 1.7 billion won. How much will you buy a stake in Toyota with that? 10%. Is Toyota's market cap 1.7 billion won now? Is that so? Isn't it 149.7 million yen or 1.497 trillion yen? I shook my head. No. I've definitely seen it. What the hell happened? After a while we held the OTK Company shareholders meeting. The CEO and COO, the largest shareholder, 80%, and the second largest shareholder, 17%, gathered together. Minority shareholders, 3%, decided not to call because confidentiality was required. To put it simply, it means that Take-Yu and I are talking alone. I brought out the agenda. Why should we buy Toyota stock? We can work together. Just like Zhou Cha bought 10% of Daimler AG stock. Are we with Toyota? The possibility of collaborating with Toyota was extremely low, unless it was known to other automakers. After Keras unveiled the technology, competing automakers joined hands. Japan established Auto Alliance under the leadership of the government. Toyota, Honda, Softbox, Sony, Toshiba, all related Japanese companies have come together. The leader of this alliance was effectively Toyota. Therefore, it was good to say that there is little chance that Keras will partner with Toyota. Even if we hold hands. If 14.97 million shares are 14.97 million yen, it is 1 yen per share. Does this make sense? Toyota has gone bankrupt. There are often cases where a company goes bankrupt and sells for just $1. Of course, this is not a normal case and it is usually acquired at a low price on condition that it is responsible for a huge debt. How many assets does Toyota have? If you add it all up, it will come out to 10 trillion yen. In the first place, the Japanese government cannot just watch a company as big as Toyota go bankrupt. And Japan is a country with a huge domestic market with a population of 120 million and a per capita income of $40,000. It is impossible for domestic demand to decline to such an extent even if it is maintained to some extent. What if an earthquake hits and Japan sinks? It sounds absurd, but even if that happens, Toyota has more overseas production bases than Japan. Even if Japan sinks, there is no way the stock price will be like that. Then what is it? A large-scale recall or something? It was there last time, but it wasn't ruined. Japanese Civil War? What civil war? Kanto and Kansai? A meteorite impact? Then do you think the Korean peninsula will be okay? All kinds of hypotheses came out, but none of them could be properly explained. As he continued to sigh in frustration, Take-Yu said, "Isn't it just a mistake without thinking too much about it? Are you saying that foreknowledge is wrong?" Suddenly his voice grew serious. In fact, I was the first to think of that possibility. However, I didn't say it because if it were true, all the premises would fall apart. So far, the foreknowledge has never been wrong. What would happen must happen, and what may or may not happen is made to happen. However, if your foresight is wrong, you can no longer rely on this alone to make investments or decisions. Tyung shook his head. No, it's not intelligence, it's a person. Even if Yeji doesn't make mistakes, people can make mistakes. Isn't it possible to mistakenly write 1 yen in the contract? What? At that moment, one thing popped into my mind. I jumped up and shouted. Fat finger. What are you talking about? Fat finger? Are your fingers fat? Right. What would happen if I hit the keyboard with fat fingers? Taekyu answered even though he was confused. Is there a typo? I snapped my fingers. That's right. Fat finger. In the financial world, it is a term that refers to an order mistake. In finance, numbers determine everything. If it is 0, the unit of amount changes even if you take a wrong picture. Therefore, a small mistake can have catastrophic consequences. Hearing my story, Taekyu blinked his eyes and said, So you mean that someone accidentally sold 14.97 million Toyota shares for 1 yen and you buy them? For only 14.97 million yen. Right. This explains it correctly. Taekyu groaned in disbelief. Does that make sense? Surprisingly, it makes sense. It's not the first time something similar has happened. In 2010, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell nearly 10% in 15 minutes after an American brokerage employee mistyped 1 million units of transactions by 1 billion units. In 2015, a Japanese securities company sold 630,000 shares for 1 yen by mistake because it was selling 1 share for 630,000 yen. The order was cancelled, but the transaction had already taken place, resulting in a loss of 4 billion yen. In addition to this, there are countless cases of ordering mistakes. Selling by mistake, entering the wrong unit, confusing numbers, etc. In order to prevent such ordering mistakes, securities companies and exchanges have all kinds of safeguards in place. However, there cannot be mistakes in what people do. If you forget, it pops out periodically once in a while. Taekyu said as if he had remembered something. Wasn't there a case of counterfeit stocks in Seosung Securities? Right. It happened relatively recently. Seosung Securities mistakenly paid out 1,000 shares because it paid 1,001 per share to 2.8 million employee shares. Normally, 2.8 billion won was supposed to be deposited, but more than 110 trillion stocks were paid out. Even though Seosung Securities doesn't have enough stocks. Initially, the market cap was only 4 trillion won. Seosung Securities immediately took over, but in the meantime, some employees happily sold it to make a profit, and the stock price plummeted more than 15% that day. Fortunately, since it happened inside the company, it was possible to cancel and recover the issued stock without any major loss, but it would have been difficult to avoid bankruptcy if a foreign securities company had received it. Are you aware of the bankruptcy case of Hansa Securities? Are you asking because you think you know? No, I was just asking. Hansu Securities was a mid-sized securities company with a market cap of 300 billion won. However, an employee mistakenly entered the call option and put option interchangeably and poured out a large order. Because of the error, it was possible to make a profit of more than 100 times just by reselling immediately after buying. This order error caused the stock market to fluctuate. At that time, relations with North Korea had deteriorated extremely, so foreign investors misunderstood this as North Korea's military action and poured out sales, and the Kospi and Kosdaq plummeted in an instant. Hansa Securities soon realized the order mistake and tried to cancel it, but the transaction had already been completed. The amount purchased by domestic institutions was barely returned due to circumstances, but the amount purchased by foreign securities companies was not returned. Japanese securities companies took more than 70% of the stock, and Hansa Securities immediately requested the Tokyo Exchange and the relevant securities company to cancel the transaction, but it was not accepted. The CEO and shareholders of Hansu Securities filed a lawsuit in a Japanese court. What was the result? I went to the Supreme Court of Japan and lost. The final verdict came out last month. As long as the transaction has been completed normally, there is no obligation to return it. The judgment was based on the fact that there was no clear basis for distinguishing an order mistake from a normal order, and that it was difficult to cancel a transaction in reality as stocks were traded again. When even South Korean lawmakers protested that even if it was a court ruling, It could be morally returned, Chief Cabinet Secretary Shinji Hayashi said. This is a shameless act. They don't know how to be ashamed of their mistakes, they don't know how to keep their promises, they don't know how to obey the law. Korea should respect the judgment of the Japanese court, he said, expressing his displeasure. Eventually, Hansa Securities went bankrupt. Stocks were delisted, employees became unemployed, and small investors shed tears. All of this happened because of one mistake. Let's think about it. Yaeji informed that OTK company would acquire Toyota stock. This means that the transaction has actually taken place. The same order mistake cannot happen 2 or 3 times, so it should be considered that it was made only once. In order to sell stock, you must first own it. So, where else in the world has this much Toyota stock? There is only one place to do nothing but search. Right away. Japan Public Pension Fund. Japan Public Pension Fund, GPIF. Like Korea's National Pension Service, it is an institution that invests and manages Japanese people's retirement funds. Currently, assets under management are 150 trillion yen. Taekyu opened his mouth. It's over 1,600 trillion won. It's the world's largest. Although Japan is not an international financial center, there are many world-class IBs as the economy is so large. The most famous among them is Nomura Securities. RCK Brothers Vice Chairman Shin Byung-do also worked there. I looked for related materials. Pension funds are so large that they invest in assets around the world to diversify their risk. The Japan Public Pension Fund also invests in Japanese stocks, bonds, real estate, and, of course, around the world. When pension funds invest, they usually entrust them to a number of institutions through tenders. The stock investment of the Japan Public Pension Fund was originally run by 5 or 6 companies, including Nomura Securities, but after Prime Minister Ozakaki came to power, they started to focus on Nishida Securities. It is the world's largest pension fund. The profits that can be obtained from the operation are enormous. Thanks to this, Nishida Securities, which ranked 4th in the past years, has risen to the 2nd place in the industry and has grown to the point of threatening Nomura Securities. The interesting fact is that the major shareholder of Nishida Securities is a company called Endemori. Japan was faster in modernization and industrial revolution than most European countries. As such, capitalists were born early, and they grew into chaebols through World War II and post-war recovery. Taeyong nodded his head. Ah. Zaibatsu. Asked surprised. Read more at wuxiax.com. How did you know? Just as the Korean conglomerate is referred to as chaebol in foreign countries, the Japanese conglomerate is also referred to as zaibatsu, as a proper noun. Sometimes Anina appears in the novel. Like that. Anyway, Endo Group is a war crimes company that grew up in the supply of military supplies during World War II. It was later disbanded with the end of the war, but Endo Corporation, the parent company of the group, survived by changing its name to Endemori. Prime Minister Okazaki's wife is Aoko Okazaki. Her original name was Aoko Musaka. In Japan, when you marry, you take your husband's last name. Right. And Musaka Aoko's maternal grandfather, Endo Tetsuro, served as Endemori's chairman. Now Aoko's younger brother, that is Prime Minister Okazaki's brother-in-law, is on the board. In Korea, it means that the National Pension Service has entrusted investment in domestic stocks to a securities company closely related to the First Lady's family. Is there still a problem? Why not? When this fact became known, the opposition party hardened the LDP. It is an obvious preference. Prime Minister Okazaki explained. The allegations of preferential treatment for Nishida Securities are false. In the meantime, public pension funds have been negligently managed. There were also many unreasonable practices, such as paying commission fees regardless of profit or loss, and no one was responsible for the loss. Please understand that it was an inevitable measure to reduce fees and increase operational efficiency. At the same time, he refused to answer about the relationship between his wife and Nishida Securities. The opposition party threatened to hold an audit and summon all those involved for a thorough investigation. As the offensive grew, Prime Minister Okazaki changed the direction of his point by shouting instead of explaining. Since entrusting it to Nishida Securities, the public pension fund's return on domestic stock investment has reached an all-time high, and people's old age assets have increased that much. What's wrong with this? Then, if the rate of return falls by entrusting it to someone else, will the opposition lawmakers be held responsible? After Okazaki took office, the LDP revised the Articles of Incorporation for the purpose of stimulating investment, greatly increasing the proportion of domestic stock holdings of pension funds. The yen is added to this, and the Nikkei index, which stayed at 10,000 units, has soared to over 20,000 now. Naturally, the yield more than doubled. Whatever the process, there is no one who doesn't like it when they say they made money. Japanese public opinion leaned toward supporting Prime Minister Okazaki, and the opposition party, which had been on the offensive, withdrew without even winning a battle. The Japan Public Pension Fund concentrated on buying Toyota in the process of increasing the proportion of stock investment in Japan. Profitability improved thanks to the weak yen, and it is the largest market cap in the Nikkei. Institutions basically aim for stable investment and prefer large-scale companies. Likewise, the Korean National Pension Service also bought the most among domestic stocks in Seosung Electronics. It is known that the Japan Public Pension Fund holds 15.2 million shares of Toyota, which is more than 10%. What happens when you accidentally sell these stocks at 1 yen per share? Even with the recent decline, Toyota's current market cap is about 23 trillion yen. With just one mistake, 2.3 trillion yen of Japanese people's retirement funds will be blown away. And we're going to make 25 trillion won. Taekyu opened his mouth wide in surprise. It's great. I thought for a long time. How do you do this? What do you have to worry about? It's not illegal. It is not illegal to buy stocks by mistake. But it is clear that this is morally wrong. I said, muttering. It is not human nature to take advantage of the poverty of others. At my words, Taekyu put on an absurd expression on his face. Hey, did that guy rob the UK during Brexit? So. He even robbed the Japanese foreign exchange market at that time. I bet on the yen and had some fun. Because of that, public opinion about me in Japan is not very good. They seem to like things like Lost Fantasy concerts. The part that makes me feel uncomfortable is that the money is the Japanese people's retirement funds. Money is money, but what kind of impact will this have in the future? If an order mistake happens anyway, won't someone buy it if it's not us? It is not. Emergency breaking news came out from the silently turned on TV. Breaking news. Japanese ambassador to Korea Matsuhiro Tanakura and Japanese consul general in Busan, Narushi Morimoto, temporarily returned to home country. Wait a minute. I turned up the TV sound with the remote control. Japan returned the ambassador and consul general to Japan as a protest against the Comfort Women negotiations and the judgment on forced labor. Foreign Minister Takeo Okamoto said there would be no return of the ambassador until appropriate measures were taken by the South Korean government. The remarks from the cabinet ministers and LDP lawmakers poured out as if they had hit their feet. It should be brought to an international court immediately, and shame on Korea. If you pay me back now, I'm sure I'll cling to you for more money later. Korea should not be given any preferential treatment. Comfort women are professional prostitutes. They voluntarily sold themselves to make a living, and some earned more than the generals. This fact should be clearly communicated to the international community. You must not give me a single yen. There was even talk of severing ties with Korea on this occasion. Then came the appearance of Prime Minister Okazaki. He spoke in a stronger tone. Japan is seriously concerned about the breach of the Comfort Women Agreement and the Korea-Japan Claims Agreement. This is a treaty between countries, and breaking it is a violation of international law. We will make a strict complaint to the Korean side about this, and we will work to resolve it in cooperation with the international community. The screen changed, and this time the scene of the reunion protest was shown. They marched through the streets of Shinokubo, waving the rising sun flag. He was holding several signs in his hand. My name, written in Chinese characters, was easily recognizable. What did you write on that? Taekyu glanced at him and said, well, Jin Hukong is a murderer. Save Masao. Turn off Joseon Sing. Comfort women are whores. Boy, you bastards. Ting said in anger. Those bastards are like that. Is there anything else to worry about? If the opponent is a weak country, Japan is the third largest economy in the world. Even if you shake it a little, it doesn't even come out. On the contrary, considering that Korea has been robbed in the meantime, I think it's cheap. If a mouse thinks of a cat, it doesn't mean that the cat will be grateful. You have to seize the opportunity when it comes. And buying cheap and selling high is fundamental to business. Money has neither blood nor tears, neither good nor evil. As money is just money. In the first place, when the foreknowledge appeared, it was as if the task had been decided. I looked at Prime Minister Okazaki on the screen again and said, "It's sold cheap, but I have to buy it." We started in earnest planning. Thanks to Yeji, I knew that ordering errors occurred. What is important is timing. "So when will that happen?" Taijayu said. "Isn't it enough to just place an order? Are you saying you want to buy 14.97 million Toyota shares at 1 yen in advance?" Actually, I thought about it for a while. But there is one problem. Is there anything to advertise that I saw foreknowledge? Taikyu nodded his head as if he understood. Well, it seems as if they knew there was going to be an order mistake. Well, in this case it would be more likely to suspect that you flirted with an insider rather than foreknowledge. Whatever the case may be, it should be avoided as much as possible. Therefore, it is not recommended to place a buy order in advance. We have to respond in real time. Doesn't that mean you need to know the approximate time? That's the problem. You can't open your mouth waiting for the persimmons to fall under the persimmon tree, and you can't just stare at the monitor all day for days or months until an order mistake is made. However, it is impossible to entrust it to someone else. Since there will be an order mistake soon, can't we just wait to buy 14.97 million shares at 1 yen per share? Is there a way? I'm going to start thinking about it now. I looked up the Japan Public Pension Fund's stock investment data in Japan. In Japan, according to the law, if more than a certain amount of shares is acquired, public disclosure is required. Just by visiting the website, it was easy to see which stocks the Japan Public Pension Fund held and how much. Currently, Toyota has 15.21 million shares. You mean that 14.97 million shares are sold at once? I looked at the material and thought, unless you go crazy. No, it doesn't make sense to sell 14.97 million shares at once unless it's a mistake. The Japan Public Pension Fund cannot sell all of Toyota's stock, and even if so, it will never offer it all at once. If you want to sell 2.3 trillion yen worth of stock without a major share price drop, you have to sell it for at least several months. Or make a block deal. In other words, it must be said that he sold all at once due to a mistake. It is a mistake to say that the amount is 1 yen and 14.97 million shares is also a mistake. If we were to sell the stock we have now, we could buy at least 15 million shares. But why do you only have 14.97 million shares? If I could live longer than that, I would buy more. Taikyu immediately understood what I was saying. Selling all at once, that means about 14.97 million shares, right? Right. Because at that time, the number of Toyota shares held by the Japan Public Pension Fund would not be 15 million. In other words, if you look closely at the Toyota stock holdings of the Japan Public Pension Service and the sales volume of Nishida Securities, you can roughly guess the timing. Can't we just move at that time? December 31st. Customer delivery of the first electric cars AD3 and AD4, made by Karis, has begun. It is the most advanced autonomous driving technology in existence and the longest-range electric vehicle. Customers who made the purchase expressed satisfaction. Japan still clamored for revealing the truth of Masaru Yoshizawa's death, but there were no problems with sales in the US, and there were no reservation cancellations. Even if you book now, you have to wait at least 6 months. As the day passed, the calendar year changed and a promising new year dawned. Even if the economy is difficult, you can expect something good to happen in the new year. We also had an opening ceremony and started working. Relations between Korea and Japan were still cold. High-level economic talks between Korea and Japan have been postponed indefinitely, and various private events have also been put on hold. The ambassador and consul general who returned to Japan did not return to Korea either. Japan continued to exert strong pressure on the Korean government every day. Why the hell is Japan making such a fuss? That's why Korea's influence has grown. If it wasn't worth caring about, I'd just ignore it. To protest so strongly means to take this incident very seriously. The international community is like a gangster world, so you can demand compensation only if you have the power. Even Germany, which is immediately called the model for the apology of war crimes, paid hard compensation and apologies to Israel and those involved in the genocide of Jews, but remained silent about the massacre of Gypsies. The same goes for colonial rule in Namibia. Most of all, what makes Japan's politicians so proud of them is their approval ratings. After this incident, all kinds of scandals broke out, and Prime Minister Okazaki's approval rating rose by more than 10%. He decided to have dinner with Hyunju's older sister for the new year. Ellie was also seated and we all clashed wine glasses together. Towards the end of the meal, I said in a passing tone, "I'm going to buy some Toyota stock." Hyunju Nuna asked, putting on her glasses. "How much?" "For now I'm thinking about 3%. It could be more than that." "Would you like to touch the management?" Unlike the Korean Chaebol Group, which is complicated by circular shareholding, Toyota's governance structure is not without problems. As soon as they kissed each other, Taekyu swung around. "I want to shake up the auto alliance a bit. There's a lot of fuss over there and we can't stand still." After Okazaki took office, the Chief Investment Officer (CIO) of the Japan Public Pension Fund was replaced by Namiki Koji. In line with Prime Minister Okazaki's policy of fiscal expansion and investment expansion, he directed the pension fund's aggressive investment. Individuals can freely buy stocks they think will rise, and it is also possible to focus on one stock. However, large-scale funds and pension funds invest in accordance with established principles and regulations. No matter how much a particular stock is predicted to rise, it cannot contain more than a certain percentage. Currently, auto stocks account for the largest share of public pension fund stock investment in Japan, and Toyota's has the largest share. It's a natural thing for a large-cap stock with the largest market cap. Already exceeded the rules. It's fine when going up, but breaking the rules when falling is a problem. Sales of Toyota and Honda in the US are declining as the new Karis cars are selling like wings. This will be reflected in the stock price. And won't the weighting be reduced before the first quarter sales are announced? As expected, the Japan Public Pension Service started selling Toyota shares. Sell orders from Nishida Securities were periodically pouring in. And finally, Toyota's holdings fell below 15 million shares. I have to move slowly. I cancelled all my plans and went to work early to wait for the market to open. And he didn't even step out of the CEO's office until the close of the market. All important meetings were entrusted to Sanjiop Sr. After entering all the numbers in advance, it is prepared so that you can purchase with just one press of a key. Don't miss even 1 minute or 1 second. The Korean stock market opens at 9 a.m. and closes at 3:30 p.m. There is no break in the middle. On the other hand, Japan is closed for an hour in the middle. Therefore, the morning market is from 9 to 11:30, and the afternoon market is from 12:30 to 3 o'clock. The clock hand pointed to 11:30 and the morning market was closed. I sighed and got up from my seat. The table had already had jjajangmyeon and jampong that Taijayu had ordered. Fortunately, I was able to catch my breath even for an hour in the middle. I sat on the sofa and ate jjajangmyeon. I felt like my eyes would fall out as I was concentrating on the monitor all day long. Drink some water. Done. If I want to go to the bathroom less later, I don't drink. Read more at wuxiax.com. Taeyong nodded his head. Hey, drinking water only makes the body heavy. What else is this? A week passed. As of yesterday, the number of Toyota shares held by the Japan Public Pension Service fell to 14.98 million shares. If this trend continues, wouldn't it fall below 14.97 million shares in a day or two? Or do you want to buy again? When will the replacement order error come out? Maybe I'm missing something? Jin-Hoo. When she came to her senses at the cry she heard, she saw a brown-eyed beauty in front of her. Ellie stared at me in the face. Are you listening to me? Yes. What did you say? At my words, Ellie put on a sullen expression. Why have you been like this for the past few days? If you keep doing that, you will get angry. Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't sleep well for several days because I was constantly paying attention. When the opportunity came, I was worried that I might make a mistake. Is it because of Japan? I was surprised by that. Yes. Did I say Yeji without knowing it? I think so, said Ellie. You mean that Japanese politicians have officially requested data from Karis? He said that the truth about Masaru's death should be revealed. Ah. Don't worry too much. We are not responsible for what happened after the accident. Yeah, that's right. Ellie grabbed my cheek with her hands and brought her face closer. Don't overdo it. His health comes first. I see. I smiled. I see.